In this video, I'm going to take a look at Battlefield 1's DLC and rank it from best to worst. As Apocalypse has released, BF1 won't be receiving any more DLC as far as I'm aware. This means what we currently have is the lot. With BF1, we received 4 separate paid DLC. In March 2017, we received the They Shall Not Pass DLC, and this was then followed in September by the In the Name of the Tsar DLC. Following this, we received Turning Tides in 2 separate parts over the course of the turn of the year, and then finally we received the Apocalypse DLC that appeared on February the 20th, just a couple of weeks ago. In this video, I'm going to go through all 4 and rank them from best to worst. I'm going to go through exactly what was included in each of them, and then give some of my own personal opinion on which ones I preferred. I think my opinion will be shared by a lot of the community, but as always in these types of videos, leave your best to worst ranking down in the comments below. I'm really interested to see what order you would rank these DLCs in. So let's start off with the They Shall Not Pass DLC. This one was a big one when it appeared. We had the French army included. My favourite game mode, Frontlines, was introduced. 2 new operations, the Devil's Anvil and Beyond the Marne, the Trench Raider Elite class, 10 new ranks, new medals, new dog tags, new codex entries, and 12 assignments. This was a lot of new stuff to be introduced, and we haven't even got onto the maps, weapons, gadgets, and vehicles yet. I think the main thing to take away from this was the French army. Maybe people thought this should have been included with the main game, but at least it did appear with the first DLC, bringing with it some very nice operations. That new Frontlines game mode as well, probably the best game mode for me personally. I loved it as an infantry game mode. I thought it was fantastic fun. Of course, you had the odd vehicle in there too, but it was really nice to get away from the explosive spam that we did see at the start of the game, although I don't really mind it that much, but it was nice to get away from it with Frontlines. Not having to play Domination or TDM all the time was also a nice change of pace. With the maps, we received Verdun Heights, Fort de Vaux, Soissons, Rupture, and then Nivelle Nights and Prise d'Itaher, kind of post-release maps. So 4 main ones, but kind of 6 in total. To take away from this, I think Fort de Vaux was probably the highlight. People really enjoy this map, and it was nice for DICE to go back and make a locker metro style mode. Again, infantry only, close quarters, really quite special on occasion. I think as well the other maps was something to behold in terms of the way they looked. Soissons, Rupture and Verdun Heights look absolutely spectacular and captured that World War I feel. And when in combination with the operations mode, I think they worked very well. Not really a favourite of mine on Conquest, however. We did have Nivelle Nights and Prise d'Itaher. Again, Nivelle is one of my favourite maps on Frontlines. Very nice to see that introduced. Unfortunately, the Frontlines game mode wasn't put onto maps past this DLC in the same way that it was with the vanilla and then the They Shall Not Pass DLC, which is a shame, but there we go. That's what makes this DLC so special for me. We had weapons such as the Ryby Rolls, the RSC, Lebel Model 1886, the Shosha, the Shogun Inertial and MLE 1903 Extended. Very cool to see weapons such as the Ryby, the RSC and the Lebel. These ones really changed up the meta of the game in a lot of situations, and it's just something new to look at, so people really enjoyed them for that. Gadgets, we had the Cogwheel Club, Nail Knife, Trench Fleur, Kukri Blade, Bill Hook and Sabre. Again, some awesome stuff in there for people to unlock, which gave the DLC some length. And then with the vehicles, we had the Char 2C Behemoth. Nice to see a new Behemoth introduced to the game. The Saint-Chamond Assault Tank, which again was a really nice introduction to the tanks in the game. And then the Siege Howitzer, not really a vehicle, but something new to experience. Overall, I would say that the They Shall Not Pass DLC was by far and away my favourite. It was the first one that was released. It was the biggest one in my opinion, and was so much fun to play. The main thing really for me, as I mentioned, was the Frontlines game mode, but again, every other part of it was just packed with content, really well put together, and a load of fun. Now, I haven't exactly chosen to do this in order, and my second favourite DLC was the Turning Tides one. This was the 3rd DLC to be released, and for me, it was annoying that it was split into 2, but again, it came at a time where the game really needed a boost. Player numbers weren't exactly the healthiest they've ever been, and I think the Turning Tides DLC brought a lot of players back. We also saw a lot of CTE testing, which was very fun, and I got to be involved in some of that. So with Turning Tides, we had the first wave of the expansion known as the Gallipoli update released on December 11th, 2017. This was followed by the second wave called the North Sea update released on January 30th, 2018. This also brought with it TTK 2.0, which in my opinion has made the game a lot better. I know a lot of people don't enjoy it that much, but it is personal preference. I think personally it has improved the game a lot. In addition to that, we had the British Royal Marines being introduced and the Conquest Assault game mode, also a new operations called Gallipoli, the Infiltrator Elite class, new medals, dog tags, codex, weapon assignments, and the rest. I think that the biggest thing, apart from TTK 2.0, was probably the Conquest Assault game mode. Now, I don't really like it on a lot of maps, and I think maybe it would have been better to stick with Conquest on maps such as Zeebrugge and Cape Helles. However, it is nice to see DICE trying new things with this update. That's what you need in a DLC. You need something new to mix it up. We've got Conquest on the vanilla maps already. You can go and play that if that's what you want to play. The only thing I could say is maybe it would have been nice to have Conquest Assault and Conquest on the maps and just see what the community prefer. With the maps, we had Achibaba, Cape Helles, Heligoland, Bight, and Zeebrugge. My favourite being Achibaba. It's one of my favourite maps on the game. An absolute amazing infantry experience. Lots of action to be had, and just mental fun on 64 players. Not too sure about the Gallipoli operations campaign. I'm not a massive fan of it. A bit too spammy for me, but some people enjoy it, which is great. With the weapons, we had a large selection introduced. The M1917 Trench Carbine, Farquhar Hill, M1917 MG, Kakano, Type 38 Arisaka, Machine Pistol, and the Martini Henry grenade launcher that came with the Elite class. The Farquhar Hill was an awesome introduction, and I really enjoyed using that weapon even before the TTK 2.0 in January. A great weapon for me, and it got me using the Medic class a whole load more. With gadgets, we had the Grappling Hook, Heliograph, Naval Cutlass, and Ottoman Flanged Mace, and with the vehicles, we had the L class and C class, which were nice to see as well. Heligoland also brought that naval warfare, something that we haven't really seen that much in Battlefield 1, and it was promised at the start of the game. They really upped their game, the DICE team, after that disappointing CTE testing where Heligoland was a bit of a mess. Now it's actually pretty fun. I do enjoy playing it from time to time. My third favourite DLC is the In the Name of the Tsar. This was close, nearly came in at second, but TTK 2.0 and Achibaba kind of pushed Turning Tides into second place for me, so the Tsar DLC is going to have to settle for third. This expansion featured the Russian Empire as a playable faction on the Eastern Front of World War I during the cold Russian winters. Additionally, the Red Army is featured as a playable faction against the Russian Empire during this Russian Civil War. In addition to all of this, we also saw the introduction of playable female characters with the Scout class, and we got access to the incredibly popular Supply Drop game mode and two new operations, Brusilov Offensive and Red Tide. If you didn't realise, I was being quite sarcastic. Supply Drop is probably the worst game mode I've ever seen on a Battlefield game, and no one played it. That being said, it was something extra, and DLCs need to be packed full of all these new things, in my opinion, in order to be successful. It just wasn't really well thought through or good enough, but again, I'm not complaining at more content. With maps, we had Lupko Pass, Albion, Galicia, Brusilov Keep, Tsaritsyn, and Volga River. From that, I would say that Albion and Tsaritsyn are my favourites, Tsaritsyn being pretty cool with that cathedral in the middle, one of the nicest assets on the game in my opinion. With weapons, again, we had a large selection, the Model 1900, the SMG 0818, which at the time was pretty terrible, but now is one of the best guns in the game, the Fedorov Avtomat, same can be said for that, the General Lu rifle, the Parabellum, Prino Model 1908, Mosin Nagant, Vitali, C93, Nagant revolver, and of course Lord Obrez. The weapons in this DLC were probably the best out of all of the DLC in my opinion. So many new things introduced across all the classes, and it really changed up the meta in a lot of situations. We also had a load of gadgets such as the Cavalry Lance and the Dud Club, and then with the vehicles we saw that introduction of the Heavy Bomber, which again is being used a lot recently, as people have pretty much found out that that thing will destroy all the infantry on the map on a game of operations. We also saw the Putilov Garford, the Landing Craft, and the Coastal Gun Battery emplacement. Overall, I would say this DLC was solid, really nice that it came with so many new weapons, and I think it does win for the best DLC with weapons, but again, I'm going to have to put it in third just because the maps didn't really do enough for me. And although it did come with that Russian expansion, it didn't bring with it a game mode that I really played at all. So I think I've been fairly decent about the first three DLCs, rating them highly, and I think that everyone's going to share that opinion. They're all good DLCs, and if you are playing the DLC maps, you'll think, well, I'm pretty happy to be playing these, they're quite fun. Now, in last place, and last place by quite a distance, comes the Apocalypse DLC, an obviously rushed DLC that did attempt to capture some of that World War I atmosphere with maps such as Passchendaele and the Somme. However, it's just not for me. Apocalypse was the 4th expansion pack for BF1, released on February 20th. You gained access to the new Air Assault game mode in addition to the maps, weapons, gadgets and vehicles, and you also had the new Afflictions meme, which, to be honest, what an absolute mistake that was from DICE spending time on something that clearly nobody wanted in the game. With the maps, you got Caporetto, Passchendaele and River Somme. That's only 3 maps that can be played on Conquest, or Conquest Assault in this case. They're not really maps that I love that much. Passchendaele's pretty fun, but the others are just not really very good on Conquest Assault at all. People say that they are, but I think it's a small minority that really enjoy them. If they were played on Conquest or even on a game mode such as Operations, which is another reason this DLC sucked in my opinion, it would be so much fun. London's Calling and Razor's Edge were introduced for the new Air Assault game mode. I know people enjoy these quite a lot, and I think London's Calling is a fantastic looking map. That being said, Air Assault is not something I really want to get into in Battlefield 1. The vehicles are fairly lackluster in my opinion, but it's a bit more fun, and as I said, I enjoy lots of stuff being introduced in a DLC. With weapons, we have the RSC SMG, Howl Automatic, IMG 0818, Ross Mark III, M1917 Enfield, and the Revolver Mark VI. Again, a nice selection of weapons for this DLC, however, not a huge amount. I think 1 or 2 per class is fairly low in my opinion, but last DLC, maybe they didn't have enough time to put it together as they're working on the next game. I can't really be too mad at the weapons, we already have a load in the game already. As for gadgets, we got the Broken Bottle, Meat Cleaver, Pry Bar and AA Rocket Gun, again, lower than all the other DLCs. And for the vehicles, we got the Hansa Brandenburg, the Airco DH-10, these of course are planes for the new Air Assault mode, and the Livens Projector. This DLC had by far the least content out of the 4, is my lowest rated because the maps weren't very good, and in all honesty, I was fairly disappointed. Now, DICE have set themselves incredibly high standards, and I think that's why this DLC went down fairly badly with the community. Apocalypse was hyped up, we were expecting something massive, unfortunately that wasn't to be the case. So I've ranked the DLC from best to worst, starting with the French one, moving on to Turning Tides, then on to the Russian In the Name of the Tsar, and finally finishing with Apocalypse. Let me know in the comments what your favourite DLC is, list them from best to worst. Hopefully you agree with me, if not, I'm happy to have a discussion with you down in the comments. Thanks for watching guys, and I'll catch you in the next video.